Hi everyone, it's me, Lauren Bersaglio, and I'm here with another Sunday video blog. Today I'm going to be talking about relapses. The reason that I wanted to cover this topic is because I think that there's a lot of kind of misunderstanding when it comes to relapses and when it comes to, what they mean in your recovery, what it means if maybe you're a friend of someone who has an eating disorder and that person, your friend, is experiencing a relapse. So I just wanted to talk a bit about it and what to do when you're in this situation. First of all, the most important thing to know is that relapses are completely normal, and they're actually in some ways a necessary part of recovery. Because with every relapse, you learn more about yourself. You learn more about yourself in recovery. You learn more about, your weaknesses, what your strengths are. You learn more about your triggers. And on top of that, you also learn more about what you're capable of and what you're capable of overcoming. Very often the word relapse sounds incredibly scary, or it has all these negative connotations, where we think that it means that we're a failure or that we've taken steps back. But that's actually not the case. Earlier this year, I experienced, when I was first in my recovery a couple of years ago, I was experiencing the more common kind of relapses that happen in the early stages of recovery, where you do really well for a month or so, and then maybe you relapse for a few days or a week, and then you have a couple months that are good and you relapse. So I did definitely go through those types of relapses when I was in an intense recovery where I was seeking therapy and that. But more recently, when I've been further along in my recovery, I experienced kind of a minor relapse it was more into disordered eating, not full-on eating disorder relapse. But I felt really horrible about myself, and I almost felt like I'd lost my identity. And then I opened up Jenny Schaefer's book, Life Without Ed, which I highly recommend. I talk about it often. And I flipped kind of halfway through the book and started reading some of the last chapters. And she was experiencing a relapse. As she was writing the book, as she was writing that chapter, she was experiencing a relapse. And so suddenly I realized, wait a second, so if Jenny, who is here writing a book on recovery from eating disorders, someone who I have a lot of respect for, if she experiences relapses, or at least at that time was still experiencing relapses, then maybe it's not so strange that I'm going through this as well. And if she is able to talk about it and not be frightened by it and not be embarrassed by it, then maybe I don't need to be frightened or embarrassed by it. And so I was reading one of the chapters that was very specifically about relapses, and she said something really important. And the term or the phrase that she uses is move the couch, patch the roof. And what she means by this is consider a relapse like if you had a leak in your ceiling. Very often when we experience a relapse, we start questioning, how did this happen? What started this? What caused this? I wonder what it was. Was it that what triggered this? Now, these are all really important questions to ask and really important questions to address, just to kind of help you move forward in your recovery. However, if your ceiling is leaking, that's an immediate issue if it's leaking and dripping on your couch. And you don't necessarily, the first thing that you do isn't necessarily sit back and watch it destroy your couch and wonder, how did that leak happen? I wonder where it came from. I wonder what started it. Maybe I should think about this for a while. Let me just reflect on it. No, you move the couch and you patch the roof. And so that's what Jenny was saying we should do in recovery as well. So instead of kind of our initial response, which might be to, because in recovery we learn so much about reflecting and self-reflection and self-awareness, our initial response when we experience a relapse might be to start kind of questioning and analyzing it. But really our first response really needs to be something a lot more practical. We need to address the immediate issue, which is we are relapsing, whether that means that you're going back to restricting or binging and purging or cutting, whatever the relapse is. You need to address that issue first. You need to stop doing that behavior, do whatever you need to do to stop that behavior. One of those things might be call up your counselor, call up your therapist. Even if you haven't gone to a therapist for a while, call him or her up and say, do you know what, I need another appointment. Go back to some of the worksheets from recovery maybe. Go back through some of those steps, some of those stages that those things that were really helpful when you were in recovery, go back to those and do the really practical things first. And then once you've kind of addressed the issue and you feel like, you know, the intense kind of damage has been stopped, then sit back and reflect, because that is important. It's important to know what caused it so that we can better protect ourselves and be more prepared in the future. So I encourage you guys to do just that. The next time you have a relapse, first of all, know that it doesn't make you a failure. Know that it's not something that you need to be scared about, that you don't have to be embarrassed about it. It happens. It happens to me. It can happen to you. So you don't need to be ashamed or embarrassed or feel guilty, but you do need to address the issue. So move the couch, patch the roof, and then once that's done, then start figuring out what potentially was the cause, what was the trigger, so that you can be better prepared next time. I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that you all are having a great week, and I will talk to you guys really soon. Ciao.